Now, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hey, guys. It's good to see you again.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
It is, what day is it? March 23rd.
I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh. Days are flying by. At 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome everybody inside of Code Noobs. We are so glad to have you back here on our weekly live stream. I hope you guys are tuning in every week because we are just handing out gold. Like literally just we're handing out gold, platinum, jewels. We're handing it all out to you
We're like
every single week.
leprechauns.
We're like leprechauns. And we just missed St. Patrick's Day, but we're like the coding leprechauns. I think we should change the name of the group to the coding leprechauns because we just
That's
give
a
back
pretty good name,
so
though.
much.
Yeah,
So much
right.
gold.
Uh-huh.
Oh man. Well, it's good to see you guys again. I wasn't here last week. How was your live stream? I was in
It was,
vacation mode.
yeah, it
Good.
was a lot of fun. We missed you. Everybody else missed you as well.
Oh, I missed you
But
guys too.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got to talk a bunch.
Nice. Nice. Any gold that you shared that you want to reshare from
I
last
think
week?
you should just
Or
go watch that
just
one,
go
unless
watch
Danny
it. Yeah.
remembers
Yeah.
anything.
Hey, I wanted to mention this too. I don't think anybody knows this, but we actually have a podcast. So if you guys don't, you can't make it for these live streams, we restream them on podcasts on Apple Podcast. What else? Google Play,
Anywhere you get your
Spotify.
podcast. Yeah,
basically
anywhere you
anywhere.
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's called Code Noobs. I know,
Oh,
surprising.
interesting name.
Aptly named.
Yeah, I know. So go check that out. You can listen to us instead of stare at our beautiful faces. And if you really don't love staring at these beautiful faces, which mine is so
Mm-hmm.
tan now, it's amazing. I love it.
Mm-hmm. How was your vacation?
It was incredible, absolutely incredible, recharging. We saw monkeys and coatis and turtles and crazy birds. Danny, you would love it because I know you love birds. We were
I
at
do
this
love birds.
cenote, which is like a natural sort of like lake sort of thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's pretty cool thing. You should check it out in Mexico. Basically, rainwater filters into these like limestone like
They're
canals.
underground natural, they're underground water. Yeah,
Yeah, and
reservoirs.
it's beautiful. Like the water is crystal clear, it's like blue, and there were these crazy birds, like these birds with bright yellow chest. Another one with this like it reminded me of the birds of paradise. It's like it had like turquoise on its neck, and it had this like paper thin tail with like a feather on the back. Yeah, it's
I
so
think they're
cool.
related to the birds of paradise too. They're really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so we saw like three cenotes. I got a bunch of massages on the beach, like literally
Ooh,
waves crashing, getting massages. It was
tough
incredible.
life of a developer, huh?
It's
Nice.
hard, man, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it.
Well,
So,
thanks for suffering through that for the rest of us
yeah,
out there who have to go to
no
9 to 5
problem.
jobs.
No problem. I'll anytime you guys need me to go on vacation, you just let me know and I will happily go for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, while you're
But yeah,
down there in paradise, there are layoffs all over the place. These giant
I
companies like
know.
Google and Twitter and Facebook are just firing developers left and right. I mean, how on earth
I know.
can we possibly get jobs as a
Well, you know
developer?
what's
Not only
funny is
that, but AI too. Goodness.
I know AI too. And what's funny is like while I'm down there, people are literally asking me to code stuff for them. And I'm like, sorry, I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
happening. So how is that possible? I wonder, right? I mean, that's the topic of today.
You must live in a parallel dimension, alternate
I must.
reality.
I must. Yeah, it must. It's like Rick and Morty. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's sort of today's topic. Our topic today is why is there always job security in web development? And I think people underestimate web development. They think it's like this boring, like entry level thing. And I would argue much the opposite, right? Because go ahead.
I
I really
agree with
don't.
you 100% because people think that development is either working for Facebook,
Yeah.
Apple, Google, or Netflix.
The
And that's
big
if you
five.
don't work for
Yeah.
one of those companies, it's not
Fang.
development. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You got to
it.
be a fang.
Yeah. Sometimes not Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
Uh,
moving
Any.
on.
moving on.
Yeah. So why do you guys think there is always job security in web development? What's your thought on the topic?
I mean, technology is just it's not going away. dude. I mean, like everybody needs it, everybody uses it. I mean, we forget to, I think it's so easy to look at these because we're so familiar with these huge companies because like monopolies that it's like
Yeah.
it's easy to think they're the only game in town. But then you quickly realize once you start looking around that, oh, everybody needs a website. Everybody has problems with how they're managing their data or how they're dealing with this or that or their users' experience. And so like there's always going to be work. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
like looking in places that aren't these top huge companies, right? That employ like tens of thousands, if not more people.
Yeah. Here's my big thing, right? So years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a lot of software existed on a computer. It was like an app, an application, right? That you downloaded onto your computer and then you interacted with it on your computer. That is pretty much not the case almost at all anymore. Everything that you download like as an app on your computer also exists in the browser. Like 90% of things. There's very few things that don't. And so those are web apps, which is essentially just a website. It's a application that connects to a database, stores information, you sign in, you sign out. It's a website. So nowadays, like basically everything is built on a website. Even everything that you like consider not a website or web developer's domain, like AI, machine learning, VR, it's all built on a website, essentially, right? Like ChatGPT is a website. Apple Vision Pro is engaging with a website, essentially. And then on top of that, when you look at mobile apps, they also, are basically built like a website, right? You can
Yeah,
use things like Capacitor, which Danny and I have been using recently, to just take a web app and turn it into a mobile app on iOS
yeah.
and Android and whatever. So you really like all these companies really need at the core web developers, right? And so I would say that there's more job opportunity out there for web developers. The only other place that I think there's probably more demand than that is where Randall is, which is cybersecurity, because all these websites are not secure. So
Dude,
they
nothing secure.
need,
You want to know something pretty crazy? So I want to tell people what I did this week because this is pretty exciting.
yeah.
So I finished taking an OSINT course, which is open source intelligence,
Hmm.
and we learned basically from these influencer home tours on YouTube or wherever how to figure out
Yeah.
where people live. And so I was like, well, let me practice this, see if I can actually do it. No joke, took me less than a minute to find out where Jake Paul's house is.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Wild.
And if
insane.
you want to,
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to find out exactly how I did it, we do discuss this stuff in our web dev incubator. So you could check
Yeah.
that out.
Absolutely. There's a cool YouTube channel that I watch sometimes. I think his name is Rainbolt. Weird name, but he's like, there's an app. It's called, I forget the name of it now, but it's like this app where you have to guess based on, it uses like the Google Maps API. It pulls a random image and then you can look at the image and you have to guess where in the world you are.
Mm.
And this dude's like
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
insanely good at it. Like you can show him just flash an image on the screen for like half a second and he can like pinpoint within a mile where it is. And so there's some cool videos that he has about where he talks about how he does it and like what he looks for. And that would be pretty interesting for that sort of like OSINT thing as well, right? You
Yeah,
start to
there's a
learn
game
like
called GeoGuessr,
that's what it is. Yep.
GeoGuessr.
That's exactly the
And
yeah.
that's, yeah, there's a couple articles that I've seen on the top tricks and techniques for that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like you start to learn like the flora and fauna of different locations and like where the sun is in a picture. And it gives you all these clues about
Oh,
where people are in the world. It's pretty wild. Or
that
even
is
like
crazy.
signposts that they use, like they're like, that's a stop sign from like America, or those are telephone poles from America. So pretty interesting. Like our security is not as secure as we believe.
Oh,
But anyway,
especially if you post stuff online. Goodness.
Well,
oh
there's
my
that
God, yeah.
trade-off, right? We made that trade-off very early on for over convenience over security, and that's where we're at now, you know? It's
Yeah,
like,
Hmm.
yeah. Because if things are
totally.
secure, they're hard to use. I think that's the biggest issue, and they make it more difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So I'd like to talk about why I think there's always job security in web development.
let's hear it.
So, okay, so I still think we are literally in the infancy of the internet. Do you know? So
Yeah.
like,
It didn't
ARPANET,
exist
I
when
think
we were younger. Like, did not
ARPANET, I
exist.
think
Yeah.
started 1969, and it was pretty much just closed to academics and different things like that. And then eventually the internet, when we were children, the internet was dial-up when it first was available, and it was terrible. And you had all these cool modem sounds that you can probably still remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, but like it's all, I mean, since then, what, we're 20, 30 years since the infancy of publicly available internet, what actually gets fully developed in 30 years? Nothing. Absolutely
No.
nothing. And so
It's
like,
constantly changing still.
yeah, and that is why web developers are needed everywhere, because it's always changing. Like, so what? There's AI that can code stuff. Not everybody's going to use it. Not everybody knows it exists. Like, guaranteed, most people probably don't even use AI. A lot of people don't
Mm,
even
no.
use it well. And yeah, so all of these things, and there's still going to need to be people who use it. It's just a tool that we can now have in our tool belt that'll make us better developers.
Actually, and to your point too, like every, like Russ was right, everything's web apps now, and every new technology comes out, there's APIs, so you can leverage them now in new projects too. Like, it's super easy to incorporate AI into a project now with the APIs. It like takes almost nothing. They even give you code examples. Like, there's so much there's more you can do now, I think, than ever in web development. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I saw this funny meme the other day, and it was like two pictures, and it's like cartoon pictures. The top one said hard pills to swallow, and it's like somebody holding a pill bottle. And the bottom one said, if you think AI is going to take over your job as a developer, you're probably not a good developer. And I don't think that could be like more true. And the reason why is this: when I talk to business owners or anybody who needs a web app developed, they don't know anything, like nothing at
Nope.
all. They really don't know anything. They just have a vision of like how something's going to work on their phone, but they don't understand how any of that works behind the scenes. And so, yeah, AI seems like a great option when you're a developer and you understand some of these things. You're like, oh no, it's going to take over my job because it can code a full app. But the problem is this: you're thinking that somebody like a CEO of a company is going to go and sit down with an AI. I mean, think about like ChatGPT. It's not even the easiest tool. I've met plenty of CEOs that have no clue how to use it or prompt it at all, right? And so your assumption is, okay, a CEO is going to go and sit down with an AI and explain to it what the app is that it wants, and it's going to ask it questions and help it code these things. The reality is that's not how it works. Like there's so many intricacies to large web apps too. Like you think about like Twitter and Facebook and things like that. They're not like a simple app. There's so many different pieces that are like sewn together to make Facebook what it is or Twitter what it is that you may not realize is happening in the background. A CEO or somebody working in a company has no clue how that any of that is handled. They don't even like, if you ask most people, they don't even understand how the internet works. Like as a whole, they don't even get the most basic things of like, how is data sent from here to there? Do they realize that it's all ones and zeros? Most people don't even understand that, right? So,
You make, I was gonna
yeah,
say, you make a good point too, right? If you don't understand web development, those AI tools, they don't help you very
they
much
don't do
because,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, you
If
don't know
anything,
which
it
questions
just
to
makes
ask.
our job easier and faster, right? We
Yeah,
can
it
get
does.
more work and do it faster.
Oh no, it's super helpful for like instead of looking up documentation, sometimes you just go there and ask because it's like it saves you time. But if you don't know what you're looking for and what you're looking at, you know, it doesn't always give you actually correct code either or anything. And I think like
Yeah,
what people fear, like eventually down the road, I'm sure like there's going to be big companies like that can invest the money in like Microsoft and stuff. They use it for like boilerplate stuff, but they're still going
sure.
to need real people to come up with ideas, to come up with like, how to do things and implement them. And that's only part of the market too. I think people forget we act like these big companies, though, the entire game in town, and we forget about everybody else that needs real solutions, you know?
Well, I think that's what we need to touch on, because everybody hears the news headlines, which are nonstop, that tech layoffs, everybody's losing their job, the world's falling apart, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I mean, if you don't watch news and if you don't hang out on social media, so like I, for instance, don't, because those things haven't contributed positively to my life, so I just don't do them. And the reality that I exist in is literally everywhere I go, people are knocking down my door and every other developer's door just to
Yeah.
get them to work on something, because they can't find somebody who can actually code. They get
Yeah,
all these promises from people who can't code, who will take their money and won't deliver anything. But no, the few people who can actually code have more work than they could possibly have handle in 1,000 lifetimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true. And I think we forget that, you know, there's always going to be more businesses and every business needs a website, right? It's your online storefront. So there's never going to be an end to it, right? It's not like one day there's just going to stop being new businesses and everybody's going to have a website.
See,
Websites come and go
and
nonstop.
and when you have a website, it's not good forever because
Yeah.
website design changes, what people want on websites change. You
Code
need to
changes,
update it
code
to change
breaks.
it. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you need somebody there all the time through that business.
Yeah,
Not even
absolutely.
that too. Like if you know how to code too, you can also leverage new technologies and create your own projects too that can become something and a source of income. Like I think
Yeah.
people forget that too. Like if you don't know how to do it, you have no means to make those things happen. But if you do, you can. And so it's like it
Yeah.
also gives you like infinite possibilities in terms of, what you create for yourself as well.
I think you make a really great point there, Danny, that a lot of new developers sort of overlook. And that is they want to just go from doing free code camp to getting a job at Google. And that it doesn't work that way. Like, let's everybody take that hard pill to swallow right now. Like, we'll do that meme, okay? Because it doesn't work that way. Nobody has done that in the existence of the world. Nobody's done
No.
free code
But
camp
I saw but
at
I saw a
Google.
video on YouTube where the guy said he started from zero and he got
Yeah.
hired by Google in
Well,
six
he lied.
months.
He lied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So he lied. So here's the
Wait,
reality
they
is
can do that?
yes, people can lie even on YouTube,
Oh my
believe it or
goodness.
not. I
Oh
know
my
I know
goodness.
everybody on YouTube is like the most reputable human being in the entire
In
world,
the
but
world. Yeah.
yeah, but people lie on YouTube.
Son of a
Believe
gun.
I know. So, yeah, but that, the reality is this, like one of the best ways that you can actually make a name for yourself and look like a qualified developer is to build something that you like,
Yeah.
right? Build an app that serves you and then charge other people for it. Because if it's a problem that you're solving for yourself, it's probably something that somebody else has a problem with too. Like I did that and it still to this day makes me like $50 a day. It's not huge, but it's free money and I don't
Yeah.
do
Mhm.
anything. It just sits there and runs and I just collect free money for nothing. That's it. And when
And
I go to like look at, a job or talk to people about work and I'm like, hey, go to this website. I built the whole thing on my own. They're blown away. And then they're like, yeah, I'll hire you in a second because they see that you can do you stand behind your word. Like I say I can build something and then I show you a project that I built, right?
yeah, not to mention too, though, I think also now's like the coolest time to be in web development too, because you can build the entire thing yourself so easily
Totally.
now. Like, dude, like
Totally.
I think
In no
about that
time.
all the time. Yeah, you go back like 10, even 5, 10, 15 years, dude, it would have been so much harder to build out these full web apps
Oh
that
my God.
quickly, because you would have to code everything from scratch. Now it's like with OAuth and stuff and like all these, it's so much easier. And you
Yeah.
make a secure site, like it's amazing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, to touch on what you were just saying, Russ, I was just reading this book called The Cathedral and the Bazaar, kind of about how the whole open source movement.
Hmm.
And it talked about how the best programs start out as personal solutions to the author's everyday problems and
Yeah.
spread because the problem turns out to be typical for a large class of users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, we talked about some a few weeks ago, like the restaurant finding app, right? And it's like, how many people have that problem? How many people like struggle to find a restaurant? And I'm sure somebody's already built an app to do that, but that just means that there's a market for it and you should build
Yeah.
another one because you can improve upon it, you can make it look better, it can have more functionality. Like, don't be scared because there's already something out there that does it. My app, there's like 100 of them. There's 100 of them, but you know what? People still pay for it, and you can do
Yeah.
it for free if you wanted to on ChatGPT. But guess what? People don't want to use ChatGPT because it's confusing. They just want the easy solution, the push button solution. So build it for yourself, and then charge other people to use it. And then when you go apply to Google or Facebook or Netflix or whatever, you can show them that, hey, I actually built this instead of like, I see a lot of people in this group, and I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna say the truth. I see a lot of people in this group who are showing off portfolio projects or whatever, and that's the only thing they've ever built is a one-page website that basically does nothing. It just shows text. And if we were in 1987, sure, that would be great, but we're not. at this point in time, like you need to show that you can do something more than just post text on a plain white background. It doesn't work that way. Like you need to show that you can use tools that, use a database and do business logic in the background and use packages and use frameworks and things like that. You need to show that because that's what these companies are using. If you're going to free code camp and you're like, "Hey, I built the calculator or the tic tac," nobody cares because everybody's done that. Build your own stuff and you'll have a lot more success that way.
Not to mention, you learn a lot more. And when you go to an interview, you have real problems you solved on your own that you can talk about. And that's what they
Exactly.
care about because they want to see you can solve problems. They want to see you can
Yeah.
actually work through these issues and build something that's like significant, not just like, a static website or something that's not going to get you anywhere.
Well, that's
Totally.
like that's one of the skills that I think helps people bridge the gap because it's so easy to just keep on learning and learning and accumulating material. You have
Yeah.
all these code camps, you have all these PDFs of every language out there. You just accumulate all this stuff, but you're still broke and unemployed. And it's
Yeah.
like that gap is really the gap that needs to be filled. And that's something that we can help out dramatically with our web dev incubator because that's where we help our students find work in as little as 2 months.
Yeah.
And but like one part of that work is actually figuring out how to solve problems on your own, not just coding along with some tutorial that you're watching, which is
Totally.
helpful in the beginning. Don't get me wrong. It's very helpful
Yeah,
in the beginning to see how it's done. But if you're just following those things and you never address any problems on your own, nobody's going to hire you because as soon as they have something that needs to be done, you'll be like, well, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. And I think that comes down to your comfort zone, right? Like a lot of developers, especially when they're new, want to just stay in their comfort zone, right? You don't want to like call a business and pitch them a website or solve a problem that you haven't dealt with before. You just want a coding tutorial that's going to show you like exactly how to walk through an app or whatever.
And usually copy and paste it.
Yeah, and you just
yeah,
get stuck. And it's, I
yeah.
think all three of us were also there at one point. It's not to like
Mhm.
call anyone out. I was stuck there at a point where I was just doing coding tutorials all day.
It's hard to
And then
find
I
that
realized,
next step, right, to take because you feel
yeah,
like you're stuck in a trap where it's like I know how to do a lot of stuff, but I don't know how to take it to the next stage where I'm building my
exactly.
own stuff and like actually putting things together.
Yeah. And I think that's where that passion project comes in is, you have to learn how to go from like, okay, I'm following other people's like projects to I'm going to build something that I've never built before and I'm going to figure out the solution and I'll find a package that does the thing that I need it to do or whatever it is. I mean, that's like what our coding students are doing now. Every time we have a mentorship call, it's like, hey, I couldn't figure out how to do this like CSS thing. So I looked it up or I went through docs or I asked ChatGPT. And it's not always like I just immediately ask somebody else. It's like part of what a company wants to see is that you're able to solve these problems on your own.
We got a question too, real quick from Zach. He said,
Ooh, question.
what's our opinion on the future of the implement of AI and its implementation in web development?" And I think this is actually interesting because I'm actually excited about it, to be honest. Like we're
Yeah.
seeing AI develop super fast. They're coming out with new models all the time. And I think honestly it assists us. I think it's like a tool that you can leverage to make your job both easier, but also do way more. Like there's stuff you can do now that you can never have done before with AI. And leveraging it is getting easier and easier. So I'm actually really excited about it because I think you can do a lot with it. Like you can feed it data and have it analyze it for a business if they need stuff analyze like, data analysis. You can do almost anything. It's amazing. So yeah, I
I
think it'll
just
be a
look at
help.
this. Yeah, I look at this as the next implementation of the search engine because like
Yeah.
back before the internet, if you wanted something, you went to the librarian or you went to an encyclopedia. And then we got good search engines and all of a sudden if you want something, you just search on Google. Well, now we've got AI, and if you want something, you just look it up on AI.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's like it's the next it just gets better and better and better at it. I don't think it's going to replace people, but it's going to replace the developers who don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
And you know what? To that point too, I think it won't replace people because AI doesn't have problems. People do, and people need problems solved, right? AI is just not going to magically come up with sites that deal with our problems because it doesn't know what they are. And so that alone means that will always be necessary.
I think
That's
that's
a
a
good
great
point.
point. I have two things. Number one is like what you guys were saying is that AI is a tool, and I look at it sort of the same way you're saying, like the search engine. I think about it like an accountant and a computer, right? Before computers existed, accountants did everything on paper. And those accountants that, when computers came along, there were some accountants that were like, whoa, this is amazing. I'm going to lean into this. And some accountants were like, whoa, that's going to take our jobs. Don't touch that thing. Right. And guess what happened? The accountants who didn't go on the computer, they lost their jobs. They did.
Mm.
The accountants
Yeah.
who like took in the computer and started using it, they became the best accountants out there. And so, yeah, AI is a tool and it is going to be used. It's not going to go away. If anything, it's going to get stronger and better, but it's a tool. It's something that humans use, right? So, my perspective is as a developer, it's our job to lean into it as much as possible, to learn how to use it and use it well, right? Because
Yeah.
a company is going to say, hey, do you understand how to use these AI tools? That's going to be the next thing that they're looking for on job postings is how well can you use ChatGPT or how well can you use these AI coding tools? Because again, a CEO is not going to sit there and code an app. That's not their job. Their job is to manage a company, right? And so if we as developers can take on this role of like working with AI, you're going to have an advantage. I forget my second point.
Well, I was gonna say it also, I think too, I think to being used as a tool too, it can make development faster and also cheaper, which is good too. Because I think,
Yeah.
you will see like, you will see, our time in from beginning a project to end is gonna increase, because we're gonna, or decrease rather, because we have that kind of tool that we're leveraging. And the people that don't leverage it are gonna take longer and cost more. And so it's gonna, you're gonna see the
Yeah.
same kind of thing happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, I
Plus,
would.
plus I think, uh, plus I think
Yeah.
it'll actually help us make more secure software for
Yeah.
once.
Yes.
Because like one thing that you can do when you're coding something is if you're stuck, you can copy and paste it into ChatGPT and be like, what's wrong with this? And it'll help you figure out what's wrong. And a lot of
Yeah.
times it can find security issues. It can find where the missing semicolon is. It can do all types of stuff that'll help you that would take you forever if you're doing it on your own.
Yeah. I remembered my other point too. And I think this is a good one, is that I'd say at least 50% of being a developer is communicating with other human beings because a piece of software doesn't exist in isolation, right? Like your website doesn't exist alone. It has to exist with a marketing team, with a sales team, with your CEO, your CTO, like your C-level executives. They all have to communicate back and forth to developers. And that's something that AI cannot do and probably will never be able to do efficiently. And the reason why is that as a developer, you have a deeper understanding of how these things are happening that aren't in just plain language, right? And yes, ChatGPT understands plain language, but not, it doesn't understand the inferences and things like that of human language. And it doesn't have that like human engagement that we have, those relationships that we build. So I think that's a huge aspect. I mean, that's one of the best ways to find jobs in any sort of development, but web development too, is through relationships. And so if you can get
Yeah.
better at building relationships, not only will you like get rid of the need for AI or use it, put it in its place as only a tool for developers, but you're also going to find more success in finding jobs because at the end of the day, when you go to a job interview, they're not like asking you to pry open your brain and show them what code you know, right?
Yeah.
There's a coding aspect to that, but a lot of that interview is a human interview. It's to see, okay, can this person communicate? Can they work well with other people? Are they trustworthy? Do they have integrity? Those are the
And
things that,
usually they figure it out in the first 2 seconds anyways.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny and I, like, I think all three of us actually have had this experience where we've like talked to people and like, whoa, you're actually like really good at communicating with like way better than a developer, right? And that's just because we've
Yeah.
been in different fields before where we've had to learn those things. And that can work to your advantage if you're transitioning from something else into software development, using those skills that you've already learned as like a salesperson or whatever it is, like HR, take those skills and bring them into software development because we need more of that in this field. Like so for so long, this field has just been like nerdy, quiet people, which is it's fine, but what these companies want is people who can communicate well. And that's something that AI cannot do either. Is
Yeah.
it can't be a human being, right? Go ahead,
We have
Danny.
one more question real quick.
Yeah.
So it said, I always, this is de jour, I think I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Always wonder, so I'm in a boot camp now, did graphic design, use WordPress coding to do front end work. So know a little, but kind of just wondering when they'll be ready to go look for an entry level job. And I think this is a question I think you kind of like, at least personally, you have to kind of like figure out in some sense yourself, but I think it's always worthwhile just to start applying too. Because if you know some, that'll give you some experience in the process. And, landing a job, though, I think, and we've talked about this before, there's a lot that goes into that of like you're kind of developing your whole image, right?
Mhm.
Around like development, what you do, what you're interested in, and getting your name out there and networking, I think is a huge part of it now, like we said. So, starting that process early is not a bad thing because I think you, at the
Yeah.
very least, you get some experience, you start talking to people, you make these things easier for yourself moving forward.
I think if you already know WordPress, this is somewhere where we could help you get clients immediately. Because we
Yeah.
actually just recently had our web client sales masterclass inside of Web Dev Incubator, where we helped our students do the exact same thing. And knowing WordPress and knowing how to make websites with WordPress, you could already be making money. So it's not a
Yeah.
matter of when to start applying for jobs. It's like you could be making money now while you're still learning the rest of web development to make custom websites.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and I don't think we express this enough. Is that the web dev incubator is not just like another boot camp, right? It's not. We're not trying to teach people code because all that stuff is already out there. It's for free everywhere online. I mean, we teach it. There's a curriculum for it, but it's not like we're not there to teach you HTML and CSS. We're there to turn you into a like rock star developer that can get a job, right? And so if you already understand WordPress or even Squarespace or any like honestly, you don't really need to. We teach you Squarespace inside so that you can just start going out there and talking to people and getting website work, like web development work. And that's really the trick to me is I think everybody's like, at what point am I ready to get a job? You're not at any point ready. You just have to go out there and do it. Right? It's like it's sort of I say this sort of analogy a lot. It's like if you're trying to drive to the grocery store and you were to wait till every light was green, like all at the same time to start driving there, you never get there. You have to
Yeah.
just go and you're gonna hit a stop sign. It's gonna happen, right? You're gonna hit a red light and you wait for a little bit. And then it turns green and then you go. And then you hit another red light and then turns green again and you go. That's how web development is. If you're waiting for all the lights to be green before you ever try to go out there, you're just never going to go anywhere. You're just going to be in tutorial hell. And that's what most people do. That's why they feel so stuck when they're starting out because they're just waiting for this sign that's going to come along that's like, oh, now I'm a developer, right? And that's not the truth. Is you have to go out there and try a little bit and get some work and that's the thing is you're not going to get a job at Google, right? You're not. So we're going to teach you how to build up your persona online, how to actually go out and pitch businesses and get web development work so you can start making a couple $100 and then that turns into a couple $1,000 and then that turns into a couple $100,000. That's how it works. Like no Google employee just finished free code camp. It doesn't work that way. They didn't just
Yeah.
hop from free code camp to Google, right? It's a progressive thing. And so they may have started with free code camp and then they got some web clients and then they started doing some bigger projects and then they got like a smaller company, like a job with a smaller company and then they progressed up to Google. That's how it works. So the time to start is now, right? There's no better time than now. And if you want that encouragement and you want that supportive team who can show you how to do that and build your image online and do the things that you need to do to progress through that thing, that's what we do inside the Web Dev Incubator. So if you want that, we have a free action call that you can sign up for. If you just look through the posts here and then inside the group, you'll see it. You can just click on that and get on a call with any of us if you want and we'll talk you through exactly what it is so that you feel comfortable, you understand exactly what you're getting. And it to be real, it's like the cheapest thing like you could ever buy online. And it's not going to stay
Mhm.
that way. So I wouldn't recommend waiting too long for it. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's my
it
recommendation.
it may not be for you, but if you're looking to get paid as soon as possible as a web developer,
Yeah.
and you're ready to invest in yourself, book an action call, reach out to any of us on Facebook, go to our website, codenoobs.io/mentoring, and you can join immediately if you don't even want to book an action call with us. But if you
Yeah.
want to find out more, we're more than happy to chat with you, figure out, because this is literally the gap that exists. Boot camps will teach you stuff, but they won't get you a job.
Nope.
They
Yeah.
leave you high and dry at the end of a boot camp with all of your money and no
Yep.
help whatsoever.
Even
We
college degrees,
Yeah.
College degrees
Well,
do the
college
same
degrees are
thing.
even worse. Yeah.
Yep.
but more
And
dry.
we've all experienced that where we've been left high and dry, but we were able to bridge the gap, and that's where we excel, is in helping our students bridge that gap, get work as soon as possible.
Yeah.
There's one last question I wanted to answer just real quick.
Yeah.
But Zach asked, what's our opinion on freelance work, creating your business or versus working for a company? And I'll just say, like, personally, I think it's a personal question really to answer. I like freelance. I like deciding which projects I take. I like deciding when I work. I like having control over my time. But that's me. I think answering that question is important for you. If you like going to work for somebody, that's fine too. But like, I just think it's up to the individual in that sense.
Yeah. I would say that freelance is your best bet when you're starting out because
Yeah.
it's very difficult to just, especially now, it's very difficult to just jump into a job from free code camp. You're competing with thousands of other people. And most of the time, your portfolio looks like crap. I'm sorry, but it's true. Like your portfolio is just not going to be
Yeah.
that good if you haven't built any sites for real companies. You're just building like mock up sites. So, what you need to do is do some freelance work and get some work under your belt that's actually for real companies because that looks way better. I agree with
Yeah.
Danny. I also like freelance work because it gives me the opportunity to work on different things. Like I get bored looking at the same code every single day. So you can see
Yeah.
you can work on different types of projects. I mean, I've worked on like Web3 projects. We're Danny and I are helping build a realtor app right now. Like there's a ton of projects out there for all sorts of different stuff. And so you can really pick and choose what you like. And also, freelance opens you up to like so much more because a lot of the time, um, you know, companies need just like developers for a short period of time. And so you can get a lot of work. The downside is that it's not always as consistent. So if you're looking for like a steady, I'm always going to make this much money income, you can work for another company. But I see Randall is trying to make a point here, and I
Okay.
think I
So
know where
like
he's going.
a lot of people think that working for a company equals job security. And I
Nope.
agree with you up until about 1980,
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe 1990, maybe about Enron. Okay. Up until that point, if you worked for a company, you had job security. But
yeah,
look at all these people who worked at Google and Twitter.
true.
They worked for a big company. And guess what? They lost that one job and everything was gone.
Yep,
You
Yeah.
do
yeah,
freelance, you're working for two, three, four, 10 different
that is
projects at the
true.
same time. You lose half of them. You're still golden and you can always get more.
Yeah,
Plus,
that
every
is very true.
contact you make is another opportunity for more work, and they end up
Totally.
recommending you too. So it's like, yeah, I think it's like,
Yeah,
I think there is more security in it too, in that sense.
yeah, I agree. So I personally like freelance. I mean, it's also just way, way, way easier to get work when you're starting out because like a company that's going to pay you a salary is going to highly scrutinize everything you've ever done. A company that just needs an app built like ASAP is going to be like, yeah, let's do it. They
Yeah.
don't look into you nearly as much because they just need somebody to work on stuff. So, and the way to get those freelance job is networking. Like that's literally all that it is. It's networking.
Well, we
Uh,
help them with that too, even in the
exactly. It's like we
in the web
build
dev
up.
incubator.
Yeah, like we're gonna help you build up your image online so that you look like the best developer out there, and then you show you how to network with people and find these people who are looking for these jobs. So yeah, Chris says security and diversity. I like that, Chris.
Exactly.
There you
Yeah.
go.
All
So
right.
we went way over today. I mean,
Yeah.
so much gold and jewels, us little leprechauns given out today. My gosh.
Code leprechauns.
Code
Changing the name now.
code pecan. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We had a bunch of people in today's call. And again, check out our podcast if you want to hear some of the old calls. If you want the new ones, you got to come here and watch them. But if you want the
Yeah.
older ones, you can always listen to them while you're on your way to work or not work if you're not working yet. But Yeah, just tune in, pay attention to those because there's gold, leprechaun gold inside of those as well. But we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you are in the Web Dev Incubator, we'll see you in 20 minutes because we ran over today. So, yeah, awesome. Anything
All right.
else? Parting words for you guys? Nope.
No.
So long. Have a good week. We will see you next Saturday.